from UCLA School of Medicine. And so we are just thankful that she agreed to be with us on this evening. Our next panelist is Tanya Sibley. Tanya is a native Phoenician. She went to Grand Canyon University. She has been a nurse for over 20 years. She has been in ER trauma, and currently she is a nurse practitioner, where she has been a nurse practitioner for 8 years, and she also practices in behavioral health. And last but not least is our own sister Shania Bristol, who is also a native Phoenician. Shania started with us at Fountain of Life House of Worship and was very active in our dance ministry. She's been a RN for 8 years, got her degrees from Grand Canyon University, a master's of science in public health, and she is also a board certified nurse practitioner. So we just thank God for them sharing their gifts and talents with us. And so at this time, I want Dr. Crystal Terry to introduce herself, and then after she introduces herself, Tanya Sibley, and then Shania Bristol.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the invitation, Bishop Russell. It's my pleasure to share information and answer questions as best I can. And I just want to underscore the importance of continuing to listen to the best possible sources of information, because this is a highly changing environment. The information that we currently have will change time and time again as more information is made available. And it's important to be able to absorb new information and be able to understand how to make the best possible choices for your own health as we go forward. I want to also emphasize how important it is for our community, our African American community, to recognize the opportunity to take care of ourselves in this episode, which has had a greater impact on our community than other communities. And the opportunities that we have include, most of all, getting correct information so we can make our best choices. Thank you.
Thank you. Tanya?
Hi, I am Tanya. I'm Tanya Sibley. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I am, like I said, Phoenician, born and raised here. I currently work in an integrated community where it's behavioral health and primary care. I provide primary care to the public as well as our underserved and underinsured community. I love what I do, and I just want to be available to be used to offer the information and provide, adequate information to the community as well as to the African American community.
All right, thank you.
And thank you, Bishop, for inviting me on as well. I'm Shania Bristol. Like Bishop introduced me, I'm originally from Arizona, and I've been an RN for 8 years, and I've been doing acute care. And my specialty is in caring for patients in the adult and gerontology population. And I also advocate for patients who are in the community setting as well with my public health degree. So I'm here to help you, everyone on here, and what you can share with your families and friends to help advocate for your health.
All right, thank all three of you, and we're looking forward to this time tonight. If you have questions, what you can do is that you can send a question via chat. So you can chat the question, and then we will have question answers at the later on in this forum this evening. And so I want to start this off with the panelists, because there are many myths as it relates to this vaccine. And a myth is, a story, something talking about something that's natural or a phenomenon. It's a widely held belief that generally is not true. And so I want to start this off because many people, particularly in the African American community are suspect of the vaccine, have many questions because of things that have been said. And so unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation surrounding the vaccine and its development. And so when deciding whether to get a vaccine, it is important that we're able to separate myths from facts. And so I want to start off this evening, and any of you panelists who want to chime in, go ahead and chime in. But the first myth that I want you to discuss is that COVID-19 is a vaccine that is unsafe because it was developed too quickly. Many people are saying that normally a vaccine takes, years to develop, but this particular vaccine, we know that it was done within 8-9 months. And so can we talk about whether or not it's unsafe because it was developed so quickly?
I'd be happy to speak to that question because it is really quite fascinating that so much basic science has come to be so useful at this moment. I want to explain particularly that the way this vaccine was developed is not in the same manner that our previous vaccines have been manufactured. All of the other vaccines that were created many years ago when vaccines had to be carefully designed from a virus itself and trying to adjust how to deliver the stimulus for the immune response without making the patient sick. We have changed our understanding about how we can stimulate the immune system, which is our army to fight infections. Our new procedures now build upon decades of basic science research. So it's not that we have developed these vaccines out of brand new science. This is science that's been well established about how to use the genetic information in a virus to stimulate the immune system. So to be certain, the process of assuring the safety of the vaccine, that has not changed. What has changed is our understanding of how to get to the final endpoint, which is a usable vaccine that's safe and effective, using a genetically understood process of finding a stimulus. It's like turning on a light switch inside your immune system. And we can do that now without using the virus itself. We use a portion of its RNA. And once that RNA is introduced into our bodies, our immune system recognizes immediately that it needs to create many, many, many fighting cells to control the infection. I hope that explains it sufficiently. And I just want to underscore that the process of developing this vaccine has been built upon many years of science that was undergone through basic science that many laboratories and countries have been involved in for years, and that the vaccine had to go through the traditional method of having a controlled test with this had 40,000 in each of the Moderna and the Pfizer studies, and it had to go through a panel of FDA approved scientists to assure that it had a safe profile.
All right, so so if I understand you correctly in layman's terms, and thank you for that explanation, basically when we get this vaccine, if you choose to get it, a live virus is not being injected into you, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, because many times people are saying that they are injecting me with the virus, which is going to create the virus coming into my body. And so I just want to make sure that as we're talking about these myths, that we're clear about that. I don't know if any of the other panelists wanted to interject anything else.
I can add something in addition to that. I just want to, with the World Health Organization, they've established that, like Dr. Terry said, that there weren't any corners cut, there weren't skipping any steps. How the process went so fast was because there were multiple donors that were in there. And because of the large amount of people that were infected with COVID-19, they were able to get so many participants, like Dr. Terry said, like over 40,000 in a short amount of time, as opposed to when you just do a regular clinical trial, it takes a while to get that many participants to get involved. So they moved at lightning speed because they already had a sufficient amount of participants to move on to the next phase. And so then they were able to pre-manufacture what was done after the World Health Organization was deemed that the vaccine was safe to go to the general population. So they already had manufacturing up in play before that even happened. And it only took a few days for that to happen.
All right, and I was really impressed just knowing that an African-American scientist, Dr. Kizzy Mee Corbett, was one of the primary scientists after the coronavirus came to the United States in 2020, that she led the way in helping produce this vaccine. And so kudos to her.
Yeah, she was studying the coronavirus well before this. So when this came, it was ample opportunity to jump on it and introduce that new technology with the mRNA.
All right, so let's go to another myth here. The COVID-19 vaccine will alter my DNA. Fact or fiction? Or fiction?
Dr. Terry mentioned that we just talked about that it's mRNA. The mRNA does not go into your DNA. Once they give you this technology, does not go into the nucleus of the cell to alter your DNA. According to the technology that's out there, it's not able to do that.
All right.
And as soon as it's done with the mRNA, it is finished using those instructions, and they just disseminate on their own.
Right.
So no, it does not alter your DNA.
All right, so this next myth here is kind of interesting because Jeanette and I got a phone call this morning related to this exact myth that I'm getting ready to ask you all about. And we received a phone call from one of our relatives who told us that that this vaccine includes a tracking device that that was developed by the government, the Department of Defense, something to that effect. So can we talk about whether or not there is a tracking device that is part of the vaccine with COVID-19?
I actually did a search to see if there was any information about that. And what I found was that there was a tracking number on the exact vials of vaccine that are being sent out. This is so that the government can keep track of who's got which vaccine, who's getting injected with which lots, and where in the country those are going. There's nothing in the vaccine that is going to allow any kind of surveillance or tracking of the individual. Any kind of tracking, these are just barcodes that are on the vial or syringe or on the packaging.
Right.
Which help us get the numbers that we have that you'll see. That's how we collect our data.
All right, but thank you. So my next question is, some people think that because they've already been diagnosed with COVID-19, they've already had it, that they don't need to get the vaccine. So I'd like to address this to nurse practitioner Tanya, because I know many watching us right now have already had COVID-19. And so is there a need for the vaccine? And so Tanya, since you've already had COVID-19, why don't you address that?
So let me just say this first. The data is still limited and the studies are still ongoing, but it is being studied and said that we don't know how long the natural immunity of after acquiring this infection lasts. But what we do know is that the vaccine one vaccine 50%, both vaccines 95+% effective. So if you scientists that you do go ahead and get vaccinated, they're saying 90 days after the infection. I was infected, and I wear a lot of protection. And I had pneumonia as well. And I was vaccinated with my first vaccine 90 days afterwards, it might have been a little less. And so I didn't experience anything severe other than a sore arm. But it is studies that show that we do want everybody to be vaccinated, because that is what's going to help with the herd immunity, which is people immune to this virus. And it also will keep the spread of the virus down to be vaccinated. The studies are ongoing saying that we don't know, and we don't know, but we can trust the science.
All right, so nurse practitioner Tanya, you just indicated that you've been that you received the vaccine. Have any of the other panelists received the vaccine?
Yes, I've received the vaccine. And I can add, I just looked up a study that came out of England that was reported in one of the medical newsletters that I received, that it appears that there's a 5-month verifiable period of natural immunity after you have a COVID infection. So 5 months is a sufficient amount of time to really reduce your risk of having a secondary infection. We know that secondary infections, a second bout of COVID, can happen. So I want to make sure that people are clear that they should continue to protect themselves by wearing a mask, wash your hands, keep physically distant from other people, and that the taking of the vaccine actually gives you a tremendous boost to your immune system, and that will give you further protection. We don't have any data on what that looks like yet, but it is the need to really control the number of new infections in order to stop the growth of the pandemic that is driving that recommendation that even if you had an infection, that you can wait the 90 days as Tanya did and get the vaccination.
And I have had both doses of the Pfizer vaccine. I just recently got my second dose on Monday.
And with any of you, did you have any issues related to the vaccine? Complications, anything like that?
I had a headache, I had a sore arm, I had fatigue. These are very expected and normal reactions to the vaccine.
And the reason why they're expected and normal is because your body is trying to build up immunity. So it's just an immune system response, and it should go away within a couple of days, if that long. I didn't have I just had the sore arm, and that's it. And that went away after like 1 or 2 days.
So I'm having what they called COVID, lingering COVID symptoms from COVID-19. So they're saying that these symptoms can linger on: shortness of breath, fatigue, headaches for up to 3 months. We don't know. Mine are subsiding now, and I'm well over 90 days, but they lingered. So I don't think that the vaccine gave me any symptoms, because I had lingering symptoms from the virus itself.
Some people are saying that once I receive the vaccine, that they will test positive for COVID-19.
No, the vaccine will not turn the testing positive, because what the nasal swab test is looking for is fragments of the virus. We won't have fragments of the virus from the vaccine.
Okay.
But you
Now,
will build
can
up,
get in-
yeah.
You can carry the virus, even if you're immune. And this is confusing for a lot of people because they are concerned that just because you have the vaccine working for you to protect your own health, the problem is that you can still transmit. You can get infected, not get sick, and still transmit the virus to others around you. It is a very contagious virus. So again, unfortunately, the vaccine does not protect 100%, and it doesn't eliminate the problem of passing the virus from one person to another.
All right. Anyone else on that particular question? All right, here's another issue that people are raising. I'm not at risk for severe complications. Basically, I'm healthy, and so because I don't have these dispositions, I don't need to take COVID-19.
What I would say to that is, well, I'll go back to just studies that I've looked at medical and nursing journals that I've received, is that one, asymptomatic carriers can pass it on. So whether you're healthy or you feel like your immune system is healthy enough, you could possibly be asymptomatic and not have any symptoms, and still, like Dr. Terry said, transmit it to someone else. So if you feel healthy, that's the same, that's being asymptomatic. You may not go get tested. We don't even have those results of how many asymptomatic people are actually out there unless they go into a clinic or something for a procedure. So being healthy is great. We want you to continue to be healthy, but it does not signify that you would still not need protection. And the protection is not only for yourself, but for those around you.
All right. So all three of you panelists, we have one from California, we have two from Arizona, and we understand that Arizona and California, unless it's changed in the last few days, are the two hot spots in this country. Arizona's number one, California's number two. Do any of you have what the latest numbers are from Johns Hopkins University as to, the number of people who have contracted COVID-19, let's say in the last week, month? I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be thrusting that on you, but if you have those numbers, I think it's important that we know what these numbers are and how bad it is, because too many people, at least that I see, are just not taking this serious. And we need to take this serious, because people that we know are being infected with this disease. People that we know are dying. And so I think it's important that we understand what are the numbers just for these two states which border one another.
In Maricopa County, I actually looked that up today. In Maricopa County, there are, over the last week, there's been 458,000 cases of COVID, diagnosed, confirmed cases. The amount of deaths in AZ average about 175 people a week in Arizona.
So you're saying that within the last week, we've had 458,000 new cases?
That's over the last, that's over the last month. It's been 458,000 cases.
Okay.
But over the last week, we've had about 175 deaths.
Okay.
Average every week. And I think that was starting from August, like average every week. It was like it was about 250 today, but the average is 175 people a week that actually die from COVID-19 complications.
My goodness. Dr. Terry, do you have any numbers for California?
I have really good news. Instead of bad news, I have really
good news.
For a change. And instead of giving you the number of people who have died or who have infected, let me just say that the anticipated surge over the holidays, that would be from late November until early January, did happen just as predicted. And that was terrifying because, as people probably heard, hospitals began to run out of places and staff to care for patients. The good news is that in the last 2 weeks, the numbers have declined sharply. Some people say a third of the hospitalizations, a third of the ICU admissions we've declined by that much. Now, it's not clear whether this is simply the tail end of the people who got sick during travel. But it is a good sign that there's now a chance for our healthcare workers to take a breath. What is the most important thing that healthcare professionals are worried about right now is that we are basically running a race against the spread of this particular version of the virus. If we can quickly vaccinate, we can slow the spread of the virus. Unfortunately, at the same time that we are combating virus A, there's virus B, C, D, and E that are variants. One from Britain, one from South Africa, one from Brazil, and now there's one from Southern California. These variants are a normal behavior of the virus. The virus replicates very frequently, but most of the time it doesn't change the behavior until a number of mutations happen and they begin to give a certain viral variant an advantage. These viruses appear to have the advantage of being more infectious. In other words, it's easier to get sick from them. If we can continue to decrease the spread of virus from person to person to person, we'll be able to keep the numbers of these new variants low and protect ourselves from that threat. It doesn't appear right now that our current vaccine will have any significantly decreased effect on controlling the new variants. But this is a very quickly evolving part of science as well. And we'll need to understand over the next months whether those people who are being vaccinated in this large first group of volunteers to see if they are going to get sick from these new variants. To be clear again, it's very important that we vaccinate as fast as we can to decrease the spread of the current virus, because these new variants, which is a normal occurring viral behavior, may be more infectious and they may decrease the effectiveness of our current vaccine. The other thing that will happen is that our drug manufacturers who are making our vaccines understand that these changes are happening and will be able to modify this vaccine just as we do every year with the flu vaccine. Every year we have to change the flu vaccine to match the current flu virus. In that same way, we will be modifying and potentially offering additional vaccines in the future that are specifically targeted at any change in the virus to maximize the effectiveness of the coming vaccines.
All right, so you mentioned something about a new variant in Southern Cal. Is that something that just happened in the last few days?
Yeah, I just read about it today.
Okay, all right. All right, did anyone else want to add anything with respect to what Dr. Terry was discussing?
No, I think she covered it.
All right, so and I think Dr. Terry discussed this earlier. Just want to make sure that we're clear. Can you all tell us what are the ingredients inside this vaccine? We know it's not a live virus, so as best you can, I know you guys are scientists, and but as best you can in layman's term, can you try to tell us? I've heard people say, well, it's synthetic, but that doesn't quite help us. So help us understand what is in this vaccine that we're shooting in our arms.
Okay, well, it's low sodium, so you don't have to worry about your blood pressure.
All right. Okay, that's a start, but we need to know more than that.
All right, so I can answer this with very easily because the two things that are of interest that I have discovered are the elements that help create this vehicle for getting the mRNA into our bodies that can potentially cause allergic reactions. Now we know that people who have known allergies to vaccines can have very severe allergic reactions to this vaccine. And the question is, what is it in the preparation that can cause this terrible allergic reaction? So one of them is called a polyethylene glycol, which is it's just an additive that you find in a lot of medicines and cosmetics and foods. And the other is called a lipid nanoparticle, which is, it's like a bubble. You want to put the mRNA inside a bubble so that it can go into the system as as a circumscribed injectate, and then the mRNA is recognized by the immune system and is able then to respond by creating immune cells. I don't know if it helps anybody to know these two items. It doesn't really help me that much, but these are essential to the creation of the vehicle that is the vaccine that allows us to give it by injection.
Yes. And these proteins that's on this mRNA is what's important to make the vaccine work. So it's what's important to help our body recognize it, like Dr. Terry said. So these proteins, this is how all vaccines are. They have specific proteins on them so that our body can respond to them.
And build the immunity that we need to fight and to get from getting severely ill.
All right. All right. So someone just sent a question in, and what are, if you know, what are medical explanations for those people who may have died shortly after taking the vaccine? Is there any information out on that? Because we've gotten a few questions on that.
What I've looked up, I looked that up. Today was the last time I kind of updated the information that I understand about it. It looks like the people who have passed away after taking the vaccine, the studies show that they're unrelated to the vaccine itself. These patients were 75 plus years and older. They had underlying conditions such as what was it? It was leukemias and carcinomas, and their life expectancy was expected to be a little shorter. So that's just what kind of I found today in the New England Journal of Medicine and MD. Let me look. Yes, and then a Medscape journal. So I just know that a lot of the patients that had passed away after taking the vaccine, they just said that it was unrelated.
All right, so how many people in the United States, just roughly, have taken the vaccination to date?
20 plus million.
3 million have had the vaccine worldwide. That was a few days ago.
All right, and how many in the United States?
20 plus million. We have distributed 40 plus million vaccines, and 20 plus million have been placed in arms.
Okay.
And to that number of deaths, I mean, it's like 0.0001% deaths to how many have been vaccinated. But like we say, the data is limited and the studies are still ongoing.
All right. So thank you for letting us know about the ingredients. So my next question, and it's a common question, how effective is the COVID-19 vaccine?
It is shown with Pfizer. So we have Pfizer and biotech and the Moderna, and they both have shown to be about 94.5% effective, so 95% effective. And what that means is that once you gain immunity, you have it's 95% chance that your body will develop immunity towards this COVID virus. But there's still that chance that you could get COVID after it, because it's not gold, right? Like it's not going to stand. It's not 100%. So our numbers with that are 95%. So, but it's still that chance, that 5% chance that you could get COVID after it. And there have been cases where people who have taken the first dose have gotten COVID, but it is unrelated to the vaccine. It probably just got transmitted to them. So both are about 95%. Anything else you guys want to add?
So they're under efficacy. Dr. Terry had given a website that kind of will help you understand the effectiveness with statistics and numbers. So you could have a whole nother segment on efficacy. So that website, use it to put on your website on how to understand effectiveness, understand efficacy.
Okay, one of the questions that just came through, a gentleman says that he's been trying to get the vaccine, but he can't even get it until sometime in February. And so what can we do to protect ourselves from COVID-19 until we are vaccinated? I mean, we know that we are to continue wearing the mask, social distancing, and the protocols that have been recommended by the CDC. Are there other things that we should continue to do until we receive the vaccine?
That is the thing that we need to continue to do. That is what the science is saying. The mask, social distancing, and washing our hands are the most effective thing that we can do until we get the vaccine. And the traveling and staying out of large crowds is how we keep the spread down. So until we can get to that, and even after we get the vaccine, we should still practice mandates that have been proven to slow the spread of COVID-19 down.
All right, and what are some of the natural means of enhancing our immune system that we can do? Because I think that many people are missing out on some of the things that we can be taking that will help us whether we decide to take the vaccine or not. And so can you elaborate on some of those things?
So as a provider, when a patient is affected with COVID-19, I prescribe vitamin D, I prescribe zinc, I prescribe vitamin C, and those are the three that we know are a recipe for boosting your immunity. Dr. Terry did put some things down, not smoking, exercising regularly, a brisk walk, 30 to 40 minutes, 1,000 steps a day. If you drink alcohol, drink it in moderation, reduce your stress level, and optimize your vegetables and fruits in your diet. And getting sufficient sleep is also proven to help. And reducing the exposure to infections. She put something that I hadn't thought about, and that was cooking meats thoroughly, which most of us do like well done, but people who do like rare, that she has suggested as well.
I agree.
I just want to add that it is exhausting keeping control of your bubble. Many of us have families with whom we live, and we now have to be attentive to who we are communing with outside of our family, and we have to keep track of all the members of our family and who they are involved with or who they're having social contacts with. It's exhausting. It's been a year, and it's very hard to maintain a level of dedication to this particular part of our self-protection, but it continues and will continue to be the most important and most effective way to avoid getting infected and avoid getting sick. You want to decrease the number of viral particles you ever come in contact with. And so layer upon layer of mask, hand washing, 6 feet, 12 feet, ventilation, stay outside, all of these things decrease the number of viral particles that you come in contact with.
All right, so we're going to shift now, and we're going to talk about COVID-19 as it relates to the African American community and the Hispanic community, people of color, because we know that it has hit us harder than any other group of people. Can you maybe give us some reasons and explanations as to why the African American and the people of color has been hit harder with this virus than basically white people?
Based on, so this virus, the COVID-19 virus, what it does when it gets in your system, it causes widespread inflammation. And that widespread inflammation affects major organs like your heart, your lungs, liver, all of this stuff. It affects those organs. And the most common health concerns that we have in our African American communities, Latina communities, and even Native American communities are diabetes and heart disease. And that's why that's why the numbers are showing that we are being hit the hardest, because it is shown that those are the most common chronic illnesses in our population. So it does cause, increases our risk of hospitalization, ICU admission, and even death, worst case.
And another factor of that is that as African, brown and black is what they call, address us as, that we hold most of those jobs, those essential workers, meaning we're exposed to many such things that increase our exposure to the virus. We're those individuals that are driving the bus, that are the housekeepers and the hospital, the hotels, just so many essential jobs that we occupy also puts us at a greater risk.
And we know that many African Americans, brown, black, are suspect of vaccines because of prior dealings with the government and vaccines. We talk about Tuskegee. And so what is it about this vaccine related to COVID-19 that's different from some of the things that we've been talking about and may have experienced in past?
I think transparency. There's been, I know the CDC, World Health Organization, they're being a lot more transparent about what's in the vaccine. They're being a lot more transparent about the number of deaths, the number of adverse events, the number of side effects. They're being very open, and we have open access to that because we do have to gain the trust. They do have to gain the trust in our brown and black communities. And that's the biggest factor that creates hesitancy. As long as healthy skepticism is in play, like we just want to make sure that we're being advocated for with medicine, especially with the disparities. I was reading that there is the National Medical Association is an all-Black medical association that was established back in the 1800s because of the racial diversity in medicine. They wouldn't allow Black people in medicine in the American Medical Association. So they developed their own, and right now they are advocating for going to the manufacturers they're going to Pfizer, they're speaking directly to them and advocating, and they're putting that information out there for us to go and look at and receive. So we just have to continue to become more informed because the information is out there for us to become more informed about what this vaccine is. So I think transparency is the biggest thing that I've seen with this vaccine.
I'll just add that when there is a general groundswell of attention to racism in all its forms, it also becomes apparent that there's racism in medicine. There's racism in the distribution of medical care. There's racism in the testing of medications and vaccines. There are insufficient Black people in trials. There's insufficient money that is invested in looking at why do Black people have more hypertension, diabetes, and obesity. And unfortunately, so much of this disproportionate ill health has to do with the socioeconomic condition that Black people find themselves in. It's not very mysterious when you look at it through those lenses. And the advantage we have now is that we do have Black people who are scientists. We do have Black doctors. We do have Black politicians. We've got a Black vice president. These issues are getting presented in the powerful places where a difference can be made. And we have to continue to advocate for our races. We have to become collegial with our Latino brothers and sisters, our Native American brothers and sisters, because we are all subject to the same racial discrimination, and it's affecting our health in this pandemic in a way that is clear. It cannot be denied.
Yes. So all of us know Dr. Anthony Fauci. And Dr. Fauci and other national health leaders have said that African Americans and people of color need to take COVID-19 vaccine to protect their health. What Fauci and others have not stated is that if African Americans don't take the vaccine, the nation as a whole will never get to herd immunity. Now, this was something that recently came out of the New York Times. What are your thoughts or belief about this statement and why?
Dr. Terry and Tanya and I, we discussed this same issue, the same article or source. And it really is about we have to look at the bigger picture. We're a part of this population. We're trying to get to herd immunity, and we're, even though we're a small percentage of the population, it still makes a difference in us reaching herd immunity. We need everyone involved. We need everyone on board. So those are my thoughts and beliefs on how we could, what it means to be a part of something that's bigger. We're getting this vaccine, not only because we want to protect ourselves, but because for the whole population at whole, our families, like other states, to get this virus under control, we have to establish that. And we will make an impact. It will impact us if we don't do it. And it also make an impact if we do it.
So when you say herd immunity, just so that we're all clear on that,
Yes.
What is herd immunity?
Herd immunity is getting a percentage of the population immunized or build up their immune system towards a particular virus, particularly COVID-19 right now, so that the virus isn't able to jump from one person to the next. It doesn't have any room to move. So if we get a certain number of people vaccinated, we can slow the spread of the virus. And I think the numbers, Dr. Terry, if you can correct, it's like 60 to 80%.
Right. This is not an exact number, percentage that we need to stop the spread. It's somewhere between 60 and 80. And to give you an example of where we are, if the current number of known confirmed cases is 24 million, the epidemiologists are suggesting that the actual number of cases is 4 times that, or maybe 100 million. So if we've had and this is just in America, if we've had 100 million people infected with the virus, that's 1/3 of the population. So you could say we've got 30% herd immunity. We're also now about to vaccinate another 100 million in 100 days if President Biden's goals can be met. If that, there'll be some overlap between the people who've already had the virus and the people who get the vaccine. But if we got another 100 million people vaccinated, new people vaccinated, that would bring us up to 2/3 of the population having some immunity. That would get us close to herd immunity. And the other perspective, you can try to look back at the pandemic of 1918. It took 2 years for that pandemic to burn out, for the virus to stop spreading. And in this country, we lost 675,000 people, and we are on track to lose that many people in much less time. We're at nearly 500,000 now.
Yeah.
President Biden said by March it'll be 600,000. And if we have any problem with the rollout of the vaccination, the numbers will continue to increase. So it is going to be, as I said before, a race to try and put a lid on the spread of the virus using both natural immunity and this vaccine. The magic of herd immunity is that if the virus has nowhere to go, it will not be able to replicate and it will stop occurring. But it's not by magic. It will be by many people dying and many people having a lingering COVID illness after their acute infection has been resolved. So it is much better to not get sick. It is much better to avoid the infection, even if you think you have low risk for severe disease. It's much better to not have it. And here's my big public health pitch. Just as if I wear a mask, I protect the people around me. If I get vaccinated, I also protect the people around me because I'm not a host for the virus. I'm not a very good host for the virus. I may spread it, but I'm going to continue to wear my mask and I'm going to keep myself out of the hospital. So I'll make the hospitals available for the sick people who don't even have COVID. So it is a matter of public generosity to mask and to vaccinate.
So you just mentioned the 1918 flu, and over 600,000 died over a 2-year period. We're already over 420,000 at 10 months. In 1918, was there a vaccination for that flu, or did it just go away through herd immunity?
No vaccine. No.
All right. A couple more questions, and then we're going to entertain some questions that we have received. There was a diversity town hall meeting that at the University of Colorado here recently, and it was stated that the Trump administration did not do much of anything to inspire anyone to have confidence that COVID-19 was real and that vaccines would be effective in controlling this disease. That's what came out of this town hall meeting. How do we dispel that myth and bring forth accurate information to Black and Brown communities that have been hardest hit by this pandemic and have faced disparity in obtaining health care the majority of their lives?
I think we do what we're doing now. So Bishop Russell, you creating forums like this, making it personal, bringing it down to a community level instead of a nationwide level. Like we can work our way out, but I think having these talks that are closer to home, that actually where we can actually see the impact of it within our communities, and having our local healthcare professionals, having talking to your primary care, to help us become more informed and advocate, like I mentioned earlier. So I think having these talks are very important. And I think continuing to have these talks, continuing to look at information, and I think that will help us to overcome like the disparities that are there. Like it's going to take time, but at least we become more informed. So I believe that going to like your local pharmacy, going to your primary care physician, going to your NP, talking to your pastors and teachers that at your community church, at your church level, and then reaching out to like people who are in your community that you know. I feel that that is a way to begin having these talks, like you said, these conversations.
Let's get busy on social media with some
Yeah.
clear, correct, positive information.
Mhm.
We know the power of disinformation. Let's show the power of correct information.
Right. Mhm.
All right. Ms. Tanya, can you speak now? I saw that you were. You good?
Yes, I
Okay.
I don't know how I got muted, but I think Shania covered it all on how do we educate and inform our brown and black people on the facts. And like you're going to post on your website, that CDC website will take you to any information in layman's term that you any question you can ask, the answer is there. I mean, they've thought of everything. And I just find it a very helpful resource. And then, we need a balance, because you're either watching TV all day about this vaccine and you're depressed, you're anxious, you've got anxiety going on. So you have to have a balance. You don't want to listen to it all day, but you want to make sure you're listening to the right thing for the time that you are listening.
Mhm.
And that's CNN, who's reporting and who's following the guidelines and mandates of the CDC and the WHO organization. And just find those sources and stick to them. Like in the world of medicine, there are so many antibiotics, right? For so many things, so for so many broad spectrums, but you got 4 or 5 different providers that will prescribe 5 different antibiotics, but they just choose their own antibiotic that works for them and that is broad spectrum, or that will take care of the bacteria that is intended to take care of. So choose you a platform that you're going to listen to and stick to that one and listen with a balance. And then the rest of the time, do the things that Dr. Terry said. Let's just take care of what boosts our immunity, that boosts our health, that keeps us healthy.
Mhm.
Yes, you were just talking about some links and some resources, and so what we are going to do, and it will be on the web, the Fountain of Life webpage tomorrow. We'll have these links that Dr. Terry and Shania and Tanya were talking about. You can go there and get good information, and let's stop looking at YouTube and social media and letting them educate us with things that are just not true. So one of the questions, we're now going to go into some of the questions. We have about 10 more minutes and we will wrap this up. I hope that this has been informational for you and that it's been useful, because that's what we want to do. We're going to have more forums like this on Wednesdays. And so what I will do, I will not have my regular Bible study, and I'm going to give way so that we can do things like this to educate and just be more informative. As I said at the beginning, if we don't have knowledge, we will perish. And I don't want to see any of us perish. I want to see us thrive. And so we want to take advantage of this time and these opportunities through social media. This is a wonderful way to use social media. And I think that we're using it very well. So one of the questions is, what is the youngest age to safely take the vaccine?
As far as studies go, for Pfizer, it is 18 years old. Am I correct? Pfizer is 18 and Moderna is 16. Those are the populations that were in the clinical trial.
There are some new studies coming out soon that will look at younger ages.
Yes.
All right. So we've been talking about Pfizer and Moderna. What's the difference between the two? Nothing?
not besides the length of time for between doses. So
Okay.
the Pfizer is 3 weeks. No, not under 3 weeks, but at least 3 weeks. And then the Moderna is 28 days. So 21 days for Pfizer and 28 days. But other than that, they pretty much have similar mRNA technology.
All right. And so when you say 21, 28 days, you're talking about from the time you get the first and second injections.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any information about Johnson & Johnson? Because we understand that Johnson & Johnson is supposed to be coming out with a vaccine where you only have to get one shot.
Johnson & Johnson is developing a vaccine in the more traditional manner, where they are using a non-COVID adenovirus as a vehicle. So they take a virus that is not the same as the COVID virus. They disable it from causing an infection, but they put the mRNA in that virus and they inject that. So that is a virus particle. It is a virus-like injection, just like the flu vaccine. And in that way, it's quite different from Moderna and from Pfizer.
Okay, so a lot of the hesitancy of getting this vaccine is because of the live virus, but
it's not live. It's not a live virus. It's attenuated. It's disabled. So it's a technicality. But keep in mind that this is the way all of the other vaccines are designed.
That's what I was going to say. So if we get a flu vaccine, isn't it the same type of vaccine that Johnson Johnson is talking about?
Yes, okay. And it is the kind of vaccine that we have the most experience with.
Tanya Didham, you want to add something on that?
No, she covered it all. I mean, that's the of it. We just, it's like she said, it's a vehicle to get that to the host.
All right. Is there a recommendation for taking the vaccine if you have various types of allergies?
They do not want you to take it if you've had an anaphylactic reaction to a COVID vaccine or what was it?
Any vaccine, right?
Or any other vaccine in the past. So if you've had any anaphylactic means you've had a severe allergic reaction, shortness of breath, throat closing up, stuff like that's what the anaphylactic reaction resembles. But as far as like other allergies, there is no contraindication to either vaccine that's out right now, the Moderna and the Pfizer, that says that you shouldn't be safe to take it.
All right. I think we answered this, but this question just came across. Can the vaccine cure those that currently have COVID-19?
It's not a treatment.
It's not a cure for it. It's to help you build immunity towards it. And what the COVID vaccine does, it does not stop you from getting COVID. It helps you build antibodies and build up your immune system against it so that the symptoms are less severe if you do get it. So you decrease the risk of being hospitalized. You decrease the risk of going to the ICU. So that's the goal of this vaccine. Keep you out of the hospital.
For those in Arizona, do you have any recommendations for people who want to take the vaccine? Because right now it's pretty tough getting vaccinated. So do you guys have any recommendations for those who want to?
Right now, so I volunteer at the stadium giving out vaccines. And I also
I'm just kidding.
Was that?
I'm just kidding.
So, but when I tried to get my grandmother, when I tried to get her vaccine, it is pretty difficult. You have to stay on it because I called at like 9 o'clock one morning when it was open up for February for February openings, and it took me an hour to get through. But I kept having to be persistent with click and refresh, or keep calling, staying on the line. I've heard that people have been on the line at least 3 hours. Stay on the line till you get you an appointment. I did it on my phone, but I kept having to click refresh. And then by the time I even got her an appointment, I went through each date on the calendar, and I got to February 16th. So you just you have to keep doing it. It is very difficult, but right now they're trying to open up a lot more locations and vaccination sites so that we can roll out more vaccine doses for everyone.
All right, so the final question that has come up is there a pill to treat COVID-19?
No.
No pill.
No pill.
No.
All right, so what is the treatment currently for COVID-19?
I'm in the hospital right now. Basically, they are they're giving them anti-inflammatories, antibodies, and oh my goodness, blood thinners. There you go. I couldn't think of it. And blood thinners. And those are not cures, or those are not the exact treatments for COVID. They're just helping with the process that happens. Like I told you, COVID causes inflammation all over your body. So they're giving the patients who are severely ill, they're giving them these treatments. But if you're not severely ill, they're not going to just give you these treatments.
All right. So are there? Yes. I'm sorry.
If you find yourself short of breath,
Mm-hmm.
you want to go to the emergency room.
Yes.
If that's one of your symptoms, you want to present yourself to the emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask, is there a treatment? So you want to prevent by, and this still may not help prevent, but you want to keep your immunity boosted with all of the supplements that we suggested. When I get someone who has COVID-19 and has been diagnosed positive, I give those immunity boosters. I give steroids, which is also an anti-inflammatory. So these are some things that you can ask your doctor for, because what you don't want is you don't want to be hospitalized where you do need blood thinners. Those of us who need to be taking an aspirin a day due to the fact that we have high blood pressure, that can operate as a blood thinner, keeping your blood thin. So if you find yourself positive, make sure you have your 3 supplements, zinc, D, and C. I, as a provider, will provide an antibiotic. Now, an antibiotic does not treat a virus, but it can treat a secondary infection like pneumonia. And so we give a Z-Pack, and then we give a Medropack, which is just another anti-inflammatory. And this is kind of a recipe that we've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Not a cure-all. It doesn't mean that it's going to cure you, but these are the things that you can do to minimize your symptoms if you are positive, or to keep you out of the hospital from, needing hospitalization or needing ICU. But if you are short of breath, you want to present yourself to the emergency room. The myth of not going is a myth. Go to the ER.
All right. Well, I want to thank all 3 of you. And so what I want each of you to do is just to give, a closing statement, closing remarks, and just help us as we continue to navigate through this time. And it is going to get better. And so we know it's going to get better, but until it gets better, we want to be safe and well. So I'll start with Dr. Terry, then I'll start with nurse practitioner Tanya, and then nurse practitioner Shania.
Thank you, Bishop Russell. I just want to remind all the people on this Zoom call that we have the tools. We have the information and the tools that can be effective in protecting ourselves, our family, and our friends. I know that it is a confusing time because we've been uprooted from our habits and from our social relationships. But as it's been clear, things are getting better, and there are therapeutics on the way, there are vaccines on the way, there are practitioners such as Tanya who can help with the symptoms that you may get if you do get sick. But most importantly, maintain your sense of optimism. That is an important immune booster as well. And it will get you through these last few months when we continue to advance the vaccine and get to a place where we have better control and less infection. Thank you all.
I thank you,
I
Dr.
first
Terry.
want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of such a needed forum. I appreciate you allowing me to serve in this capacity. I just want to give a plug right here because I'm no good if you don't come see me. If you don't have primary care, I can be your primary care provider. If you need something, to address anxiety, to address depression, and I too soon will be having this vaccine. So I'm going to give the number and Bishop will put it up on his website. So whatever the need is, you can definitely call this number and ask to have an appointment with me. We should be having this vaccine by mid-February, open to the public. So that number is 602-389-3560. That's Taro's Health, 602-389-3560. And you can call and ask, is the vaccine available? You could call and make an appointment with me. Do not suffer in silence. Call. Someone is there to help. I promise you.
Thank you.
Well, what I want to say, everyone had such great questions. These are questions of the community. I know I sent out an evaluation or a survey, I'm sorry, and I'm thankful for everyone who answered because it helped me to understand where we sit as a community and our confidence in this vaccine. And we were kind of split. So I hope this was helpful in getting the community to understand and be informed. I think things, and I also want to put this out there that the information that we have, like Dr. Terry and Tanya have mentioned during this forum, the information that we have is right now. It's changing as we learn more about the vaccines, as people are getting it. So even if in a month down the road or 2 weeks or even tomorrow you hear something different, it's only compounding on what we know now and as we learn and gather information. So it doesn't mean that what we're saying now and what's being said is wrong from reputable original sources. It's just saying that we're learning more about it. So that's how we learn and we grow and we help our communities be more safe and healthy. And also I wanted to say, we had discussed that if you still have questions, because this is an ongoing conversation, continue to submit your questions to Bishop, to Fountain of Life, and we'll come together and help to answer those questions and still be in the background, helping to answer questions, even if it's not in this capacity.
Again, I want to thank all of you for coming together. You guys have done just a wonderful job. And so Fountain and those who are watching via live stream, Facebook, YouTube, we're all so grateful. And so again, we want to say thank you. This concludes our time this evening. We will close out in prayer. And I just want to encourage all of you just to continue to be safe. I'm telling you, the zinc, the vitamin D, the elderberry, the vitamin C, they really help, and many other things. Sister Russell and I, we take so many supplements now. I'd never taken supplements like this, but I tell you, a couple of times a sore throat tried to come up upon me, and that sore throat was gone in like 20, 30 minutes. I was just amazed. I'm like, this really works when we build up our immune system. And
Yes.
so it works. If you decide that you don't want to take the vaccine, keep your immunity, your immune system built up. Walk 10,000 steps a day. My law firm, we all just got benefits. So my insurance with United Healthcare Insurance, if we walk 10,000 steps a day, we get like $100, $120 thrown into my health savings account. So it equates to about $1,000 a year savings on health insurance. And so it helps to walk. So let's do those things that will keep us safe and fit and well. Love you all. God bless you all. Father, we thank you. We bless you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to come together, and we speak blessings over our presenters today and all those who have been listening to us, that we have gotten good news, good information, Father God, and we will use it so that we will stay healthy and well. And we bless you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, you all go in peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good thing.
And he was the noise maker.